sacks last season. Then the Cowboys restructured the deals of center Travis Frederick and tight end Jason Witten. That just happened in the past week, creating roughly $10 million in cap space. And then they lost linebacker Anthony Hitchens, who left for the Chiefs in free agency, as well as cornerback Orlando Scandrick, who requested a release after 10 seasons in Dallas. As for the additions, the Cowboys added former Jags wideout Alan Hearns, and they are also expected to sign tackle Cam Fleming, who started for the Patriots in Super Bowl 52. Also, this from our NFL Nation reporter, Todd Archer, who tweeted Cowboys wide receiver Terrence Williams recovering from a broken foot that required surgery. According to sources, Executive Vice President Stephen Jones did not elaborate on the nature of his injury, but said he would miss some time during the offseason. All of this sets us up for a Dallas edition of Overreaction Monday. And with some of those moves, you could suggest the Cowboys are preparing for Dez Bryant's departure. Is that an overreaction or not an overreaction?
It's not an overreaction, Wendy. It's not directly tied to all these moves. It's not as if, hey, we're signing Alan Hearns and Deontay Thompson because we have a release of Dez Bryant right around the bend. But they have insulated their wide receiver depth chart in the event that they cannot get Dez Bryant to agree to a lower cap number for the 2018 season. It may not be palatable. Now, it may be this. You don't need the cap space at this moment because there's somebody else you don't need to sign. But let's just say a player becomes available or the Cowboys trade for someone or need to get their draft pick signed. That might be the motivation to revisit a Dez Bryant's contract restructure. May not be tomorrow, may not be next month, but it certainly feels like at some point this offseason there's going to be some moment with Dez Bryant, whether it's a new deal or potentially him being released.
Not an overreaction, and, Field's right about the contract situation. And the reality is that Dez Bryant is not really playing up to, he's not, I don't think that he is viewed as one of the top wide receivers in the league anymore. I think that there have been younger guys that have passed him by. Doesn't play with the same type of speed, and the production just isn't there. And look, you can blame it on the change in quarterback and Dak Prescott and the type of offense that they run all you want, but the reality is he wasn't separating, wasn't creating the same number of plays that he was earlier in his career.
Yeah, not an overreaction for me also. And all those things you just said, Tim, but in Dez's mind, he is a top flight wide receiver still. He still believes he can get that done and be a #1 receiver. But your production is dropped off. You're also going to be 30 years old in November, I believe. So it's like there comes a time where organizations move on, and usually when that formula we just talked about, drop in production, age gets up above 30, it happens. I mean, but there's certain times where certain organizational players end up taking those pay cut, salary cap sort of reductions to stay with that organization even longer, stay a Cowboy. I hope Dez does that.
Well, it's sort of like we talked about with Odell Beckham Jr. If he sees himself one way and the team views it differently and believes there to have been a little bit of a drop-off, then, again, something will have to give. Yes. So how about this? We'll continue. We'll stay in Dallas. The Cowboys, in terms of Zeke and Dak will have their best year yet, their best year ever together. Is this an overreaction?
Not an overreaction for me. Well, one, I'm planning on Zeke not being suspended, so that's an easy one. That's an easy one, so I think he'll do better than his rookie year production. And I think Dak Prescott, who kind of had an uneven season a year ago, I think he's going to continue to grow and mature his position. I think that he's going to be better. I think he's a better player than he showed a year ago. I think there'll be some changes what they do offensively. To do some of the stuff, in terms of running him and simplifying some things for him like they did his first year. So I think this will be their best year yet.
Yeah, not an overreaction for me either. Just all the
things coming.
Yeah, all the things that Tim said, and also, I just see this Cowboy team is starting to turn over to be these two guys. Really, what happens with Dez Bryant? What we just talked about, that's still a mystery. We'll see, but it's the Dak and Zeke show, and they're going to ride this out. They're going to get Zeke plenty of touches every single game, and I agree with Tim. Dak will just get better.
I think it's an overreaction, and that's because just how good they were as rookies. Historic season for each of them as a rookie back in 2016. Zeke was perhaps the best running back in football, certainly one of the most productive, and that was after a slow 2-game start to begin his career. Dak was nearly perfect in terms of decision-making and not to be overlooked. Now, I don't think that everybody has a perfect view of what all 32 NFL offensive lines how they look. But I think we can almost all agree that the best offensive line in football in 2016, and it wasn't close, was Dallas Cowboys. That group has a lot of the same parts. Zach Martin's still there. Trevor Purchase is still there. Tyron Smith is still there. Lyle Collins is still there, just playing a different position. But as we just talked about earlier, they've done some offensive line tweaking because they have to figure out if they can find their best five. I think that 2016 season, it may be one of the best 2 races they have ever in their careers, and it wouldn't be a shot at them. It just is more of how brilliant that 2016 year was.
Well, look, if you can best that 2016 season, that spells good things for the Dallas Cowboys because it was an extremely good year, and if they can beat that, they're in good shape. Still ahead on NFL Live, players' behavior during the national anthem continues to be a hot-button topic. We'll talk about the owners' plans to try and resolve this once and for all.
Pepsi's always had great taste.